Yay, good morning. Good morning. So, I was just laughing before I got on to today's Facebook Live. I'm like, who else in the world gets so excited and jazzed up about talking about addiction? I don't know anybody else, but here's the thing is that, I used to hate this word so much. And I thought like there was no way that I identified with it at all. But here's the cool thing is that when you're actually in the solution of having an addiction or you are actually free from it, it loses all of its heaviness. It loses all of its heaviness. So I don't have this like horrible connection with that word. And so when I come here to share about addictions or obsessions or things like that, I'm like so light about it. I'm so excited about it. So if you are having any experience other than a sense of lightness and freedom when it comes to talking about addictions, then that is why we are here today. Because today we are talking about the difference between bad habits and addictions. And hey, Ian, so good to see you. And, this is the thing that I find gets in the way for so many folks because they are trying to fix their addiction with the solution that addresses bad habits. So if you stick around today, we're going to be getting into exactly actually how to move past a bad habit, but more importantly, what it truly, truly takes to first identify if you have an addiction, if what you've got going on is an addiction, and what you need to do to truly have lasting freedom from it. So hello, for those of you who I don't know yet, my name is Debbie Lichter. I am founder of Freedom Embodied Academy. And it's been my honor, my absolute honor, to support men and women over the last decade in getting free from food addiction and really all addictions and obsessions. I mean, I would say that I specialize in like the socially acceptable addictions, like the workaholism, the controlling and the fixing and the food and, like the wine and the, I smoke and, like this kind of stuff. And what I find is that these kind of addictions that we think are not so bad, that actually can snag us and really hold us back from being the people that we really want to be in the world, from feeling fully alive in our lives. And so I am always here to support you in what it's going to take for you to come into a deeper level of alignment so that you can be authentically you, shine your light, and go on and inspire and help all the people in the world that you are meant to. So let's, yay. Oh, good. Oh, it said 28 minutes ago. Oh, goodness. Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad that we're here live. I'm glad that we're here live. So what I'd love to do today is I'd love to start out by really getting into a definition of what we mean when we're talking about bad habits and what we really mean when we're talking about addictions. This week in the Congruence Collective Facebook group, which if you're not a part of the Congruence Collective Facebook group, you should definitely come and join us over there. You can go to liveyourlight.today and come over and play with us. But we were getting into a discussion in the Congruence Collective Facebook group about what the top addictions are that you relate to or that you really feel like are holding you back. And I don't want to spill the beans for the people. I want to keep that private for what people were sharing in there. But if you come and join us for free, you can check it all out because it was really surprising. It was really surprising. And I would say that, some of those more socially acceptable addictions were really up there. And so this is important for us to know. And when you go there, you can vote, you can put your votes in there too. You can add your opinion into the pot there. But, I noticed this conversation coming up a lot where people are like, well, I'm not really sure if this is an addiction or this is a bad habit. So here we go. I actually wrote some of this stuff down today because I wanted to make sure that I got everything that I wanted to share with you. So here we go, because I'm not a bad habit expert at all. So let me share with you, looking up on reputable websites, what a bad habit is. A bad habit is a negative behavior pattern. Common examples: procrastination, overspending, stereotyping, nail biting, interrupting people, being chronically late, these kinds of things, bad habits, right? And then there's like those sort of like quasi, is it a bad habit that I finish eating dinner and then I go sit on the couch and then I break out the popcorn and I eat a whole nother bag? Is it a bad habit that I swing by the drive-through on the way home? Are these bad habits? Are these addictions? What is it? There's like this gray area, right? We're going to be getting into all of that today. But, you know, the thing that I hear so many times from like the quote unquote experts out there, because I feel like I'm always hearing a different, is it like 21 days or 30 days or 45 days or 90 days? I hear different numbers from people all the time. They're like, it takes this number of days to break a bad habit. And I'm not an expert on bad habits, so that could be very, very true. I think where we get a little bit tripped up is when we are trying to address addictions like they're bad habits. Because addiction is anything that we do to distract or numb ourselves from an underlying discomfort and dis-ease that when we try to stop doing, we find that we can't. So here's the thing, is that bad habits, I'm going to go into in just a moment, I'm going to go into just, you know, talking about like a list of things, like the top 10 things to do if you have a bad habit. These are all things that you can do to try and break your bad habit. And I want you to listen to these things. You can write them down. You can listen to this recording again. You can take notes because this is so important. This is so important to get, because oftentimes this is what people are trying to do in order to fix or change their addiction. And when you're trying to fix or change an addiction using the surface solutions that they talk about, that we're going to talk about today in the bad habit list, it's not going to equate. If you've got an underlying discomfort and dis-ease going on, if you've got something that's driving you to the pattern in the first place, then until you address what's going on at a deeper level, you're going to continue to have something happening on the surface, whether maybe it's, you know, reaching for a certain addictive pattern, or maybe you change it up and you go for a new addictive pattern. But it's like, it's gonna be that game of whack-a-mole where it's like that driving need to have that sense of ease and comfort is going to come up in one way or another. So here's what I like to do. Hey, Colleen, yay. Yes, absolutely. You know, and I want to speak about that. Thank you for bringing that up. Colleen says, thank you for that definition. I'm struggling with the addiction word because it has such a negative connotation. And I think that you are so not alone with that. And I was in the exact same boat. You know, I really thought for the longest time, if I'm using the word addiction, like the word addiction to me, like it like feels like I'm putting myself in a box. I'm putting myself, like I'm labeling myself, and I'm putting myself in this really small context. And, you know, all of the positive thinking or personal development stuff tells us that, you know, what you think about, you attract more of, and, you know, and like you've got to positively think, and you've got to think beyond the problem. Otherwise, you're going to attract more of the problem. And, you know, I think we can get really tripped up on that stuff. In fact, I watch people get really, really tripped up on that stuff. And, you know, a couple things that I'll say about that is that what we resist persists, first of all. And when we can actually get super clear and honest, first of all, honest with ourselves that whatever we've been doing hasn't been working, and super clear, like you said, about what it really means to have an addiction and what it means for us. And then we can see that clarity, that acknowledgement, that really conceding that to our innermost selves is actually like the very first step of the path of freedom, that it actually has this sense of relief and this sense of, oh my gosh, I finally get it. I get why these other strategies that I've been using haven't been working. I get why this approach that we're about to talk about in a second hasn't been working, because I've been trying to fix a problem with the bad habit solutions and it hasn't been working. So I think that, you know, oftentimes the addiction word feels so heavy and has this negative connotation because we don't fully understand what it is, because most other people don't fully understand what it is, and because we think that if we identify with it, that it's going to mean that we're putting ourselves in a prison, that we're locking ourselves into staying stuck in the problem. And the most liberating thing that I have ever done is really concede to my innermost self that I actually had an addiction after getting full clarity about what it means to have an addiction in body, mind, and spirit. And Colleen, I know that you're a part of the Academy, the Freedom Embodied Academy, where we get to dive deeper into that stuff. I really, really think that no person should be walking around identifying themselves as an addict or not an addict if they have not undergone a self-diagnostic process whereby they fully understand what it means to have an addiction in body, in mind, and in spirit. And it's so, so important to understand that. And then once you do, to really say, wow, I have this thing. And then what that does, the clarity alone allows for you to actually get directly, it launches you into being in the solution, because clarity is the first step on the path of freedom. And so you're actually in the solution of the thing, and you're not staying stuck in the problem. And so what I found was that as long as addiction was a heavy word for me, it's because I was still staying stuck in the problem. But as soon as I got into the solution, that energy started to shift. And so, you know, sometimes there's like an internal experience that needs to happen, and sometimes it's like us just needing to get that other people aren't going to understand it and really knowing our truth. But eventually it catches up to a place where that word doesn't have a charge anymore. That word is like something that you don't, it doesn't kind of create an energetic snag for you. So thank you for bringing that up, because I know that you're not the only person who is listening to this right now who can relate to that. And please keep your comments and your questions coming, because this is all really good stuff. Okay, so what I want to get into, I was laughing. I was enjoying this so much today when I was going through this list of like the top 10 things that you want to do, the top 10 things that you want to do to fix a bad habit. Okay, so you can write these things down. Okay, so fine yourself for each offense. Fine yourself for each offense. So this is the punishment as motivation solution, which I remember I had a friend once who said that was how he coached. He said in order to motivate his people, he said like this guy's like, I want to write a book, and he's like, okay, great. So every day that you don't turn in a page to me, like you have to pay, you have to put $1 towards a Donald Trump fundraiser. You know, that's what he said. I'm not getting political with y'all today. I'm just saying what he said, what he told me. And as people were doing, you know, they were doing it. That was a motivation point for them. The punishment as motivation was working for them. So, you know, finding yourself for each offense. Okay. Understanding what triggers your bad habits. Understanding, so this is the whole self-knowledge thing, understanding what triggers your habits. This comes up in a few different ways throughout this top 10 list. And, you know, this is like, if you are, if you read books, if you go to therapy, you want to understand your triggers. Why do I do this? Why do I do this? Okay, so that's the self-knowledge angle here. This is all to overcome a bad habit, right? Go slow and make tiny changes. So this is, you know, focusing on behavior fixes, really. It's like, you know, as long as you just go slow and you make small changes, you know, I think about when it comes to food addiction, right? And when people are trying to apply this type of stuff, go slow and make tiny changes. Like, okay, I'm just going to start drinking more water right now. I'm just going to really start drinking more water. I'm going to have a green juice. You know, I'm just going to start to like slowly make these changes in my life. So, you know, that's the behavior focus. Okay. I love this one. Spend a month. This is number 4. Spend a month thinking about your habit before you take action. Spend a month. Spend a month thinking about your habit before you take action. There's so many things that I can pick apart about this one here, but I think that the one thing that I'm going to extract from this statement that's so ludicrous to me is that it's like this trying to think it through. Like these next two, 4 and 5, are both trying to think it through as if I can project into the future and I can start to, figure this out over here. Number 5 is the same thing. Remind your future self about avoiding bad habits. Remind your future self about avoiding bad habits. So this is this whole idea, 4 and 5 are this whole idea of I can think this one through. I can project into the future what it what it's going to be like, and I can try and, navigate or control how things go so that I don't have that outcome. It requires a tremendous amount of reliance upon our mind, upon our mindset, and upon our thinking. So just kind of like listen to this stuff here and just, consider for yourself, just with a sense of, lightness and self-love, have I tried to apply these types of things before to getting free from addictions? Is this, have I done this stuff before? Changing your environment. Changing your environment. Talk about changing your environment. I remember being so caught up in my food addiction and my other addictions and stuff, that I moved to a different continent. That was a change of environment. And wherever you go, there you are. I mean, that's all I can say. Within a couple of weeks, I was right back to the same patterns, So changing your environment. And again, a lot of these things are good, positive changes, right? I mean, it's good, positive things. Changing your environment might be, I want to hang out with people who aren't so negative. That's great. That's super great. And if you're trying to change a bad habit, that seems like something that works. We just need to consider, is this what we're trying to do when we are trying to overcome an addiction? Okay, I love this one because I tried to do this for so long, and I speak to so many people who are still trying to do this right now, and I get it. I so get it. Coach yourself out of bad habits. Coach yourself out of bad habits. So tell me if you relate to this. Tell me if you relate to coaching. Just say self-coaching in the comments if you relate to coach yourself out of bad habits. And so it's like being your own cheerleader, being your own guide, trying to figure it out on your own. And trust me, if this is you, if you relate to this, I get it. Because when it's like that feeling of like, I just don't want to put this on anyone, or I don't want to let other people down because I can't even, follow through with this for myself. I'm just going to figure this out over here. That feeling of shame or embarrassment or that fear of failure, it has us really holding back. And oftentimes we then decide, if I can't motivate myself to this, then who can? But the whole thing is that we're the crappiest self-motivators. Like, we're the crappiest self-motivators. Think about, like that first day at the gym for most of us. We're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do this all the time. Like, I got this. This is great. It's my best year ever. And then like by the next week, like we can't even find like the, the little fob thing to like get into the front door of the gym. Like we cannot rely on that when we're dealing with addiction, right? But we're talking about bad habits, and this is one of the tips. So if you have a bad habit that you want to get rid of, and I would say that all addictions could be considered as bad habits. They're negative behavior patterns, but we can't use the solutions of the bad habit in order to try to fix an addiction. That's where we're gonna get really, really stuck. Okay, so again, this is so good. Do a review. This is number 8. Do a review when you have a bad habit relapse. Do a review. This is the remorse, regret analysis of why. Why? Have you ever done that? You've had, like, let's say you've had a binge on food, or you've just now, you meant to go to bed at 10 o'clock, but you just like somehow fell into a vortex of like being on social media and being on your phone for like the last 2 hours, and you kind of come to, you're like, what am I doing? Why is it 12 o'clock? Darn it. Why am I doing this? And you go into this analysis. What's wrong with me? Why am I doing this? If you relate to the analysis part, then just put analysis in the comments, because I think that this is one of the things we almost feel like, if we can understand why, and then we come up with some reason, right? We come up with some reason why, and it's because when I was a child and this happened and I need this and whatever, and we're kind of just going in circles, but none of it is actually moving the needle forward if you have an addiction, right? Okay, so do a review of why you have bad relapse. That's so funny to me. Okay, create an if-then plan. So an if-then plan. So if I do this, then I'm going to do this instead. So, so this is essentially replacing a bad habit with a good habit. Replacing a bad habit with a good habit. Again, these are positive life changes. These are positive things to do in your life that can really, really be lovely. And it's when we are only trying to do these things, right, that we're gonna have problems. So this is like, you know, as it relates to food, this is like, okay, well, I wanna go for the cookies, but I'm gonna go for the pretzels instead, right? I wanna go for the ice cream, but I'm gonna have the frozen yogurt instead. You know, this is trying to replace a better habit with what we consider to be a bad habit. And there's nothing wrong with that. The thing is, you know, like, I know for me personally, I could binge on many things that weren't necessarily bad foods because I had this voracious need to be full, you know, and so, you know, I could kind of tell myself, well, it's not so bad because it's kind of a healthy food over here. But at the end of the day, it's not addressing the real drive to binge or to overeat. So just consider that stuff for yourself. And then number 10, oh my gosh, it's so good. Again, this is all about the bad habits. Train yourself to think differently about your bad habits. Train yourself to think differently about your bad habits. So essentially, train your mindset to think differently about your mindset. So as many of you have heard before, and me share before, you know, here's the big thing, is that we cannot address addictions by trying to fix it at the surface level, by trying to change our mindset, by trying to punish ourselves, by analyzing it, by future tripping about it, by trying to control it. Like, we can't do that by trying to fix it ourselves and not ask for help. These are all the things that I have personally done, that I watch other people do, that keeps them stuck. And so here is the thing, and I am going to just quote Einstein because I love when he says this, that no problem can be solved from the same consciousness that created it, okay? When we have a problem that's going on in our mind, we cannot use any solution that has to do with changing our mindset, using our mind to think something through, analyzing the problem, reminding ourselves, thinking differently about it, understanding our triggers. Like, none of that stuff is going to touch sides if we are trying to really get free from an underlying discomfort and dis-ease that's driving us towards these addictive patterns. So what I want to share with you right now is, I'm sure you can see just by me going through this, how this list of how to get over a habit is not going to address what it means to really, really get free from an addiction. But I will just spell it out as a bottom line here. You cannot fix an addiction. First of all, I would say you cannot fix an addiction because I don't use the word fixing. I think whenever we're trying to fix, we're like trying to figure it out. But you can't get free from an addiction by trying to address it at the surface level, or by trying to address it with your head, with your mind, with your thoughts, with your thinking. Those two things will keep you stuck. So in a moment, I want to go into what it actually, like some of the keys to actually what it takes to getting free from addiction. And you actually can get free, and you can have lasting freedom. And the things that I'm going to share with you are part of a larger conversation that that I'm happy to to dive into with you if you're really at that place where you're like, I'm really ready. I'm ready to get free from my food addiction. I'm ready to get free from my overworking addiction. I'm ready to get free from my social media or my cell phone addiction. I am ready to get free from my controlling or fixing or obsessing addiction. I'm ready to get free from my love addiction. If you're ready, if you feel like you are at that place where you're like, yeah, Deb, I relate to all of these bad habits, trying to solve my problem with these solutions. What do I need to do instead? I don't know. If you want clarity around that, it would be my absolute honor to support you in getting clarity on your specific next steps. What I'm going to be sharing about in just a little bit are sort of like the general next steps, but I would love, if you want to get very, very laser focused with you on specifically what's happening for you and specifically what it's going to take for you and your next steps to getting on that path of freedom. If that is something that you want to do, please schedule some time with me. You can go to getsupport.today. If you, go ahead and just go to getsupport.today. That will set you up with a complimentary 15-minute session with me, and then we can hop on a call. We can do a lot in 15 minutes. We'll get super laser focused. I'm going to send you a little assessment beforehand so I can really, really get a sense of what's happening for you. So when we get on the phone, it's like, boom, like we're going to go straight in. And it would be my honor to just help you with help you get really, really laser clear on what is in the way right now and exactly what it's going to take to move you through that. So again, we'll put that in the comments here, getsupport.today, if that's something that you want to do. And what I want to get into right now is I want to get into the hallmarks of addiction, the ways that you can really identify. You can start to identify, is what I'm doing an addictive pattern? Now, I've got a big, big disclaimer with what I'm about to share, is that even as you listen to this and you start to think, yeah, I'm relating to all this stuff, I think I might have that thing, I still invite you to get some help to really get the clarity on like, okay, yes, I've got this, now what do I need to do? Because I think that it can be a little bit isolating if you're like, okay, I have this, and then you're just sort of like now in your head trying to figure it out on your own. So, okay. So here we go. The hallmarks of addiction. And this goes for any addiction, whether your thing is incessantly checking your phone, or whether your thing is not being able to lay off the popcorn, or whether your thing is watching for back-to-back episodes of Netflix. Whatever that thing is, once you start engaging in that pattern or behavior, you don't want to stop. You don't want to stop, or you lose control over how much you engage in that pattern. Such a perfect example is with Netflix, right? Or like when you're watching a show, like a series, and you get to and you're like, I am just gonna watch a show, it's no big deal, whatever. And then you get to like the very end and it's like this clincher and you're like, oh my God. And then it's already queuing up the next one. You're like, well, I can just go for another one. But you weren't intending to, right? You weren't intending to. Or you like open up that bag of chips and you're like, I'm just gonna have a little bit. I'm gonna be eating dinner soon, I'm just gonna have a little bit. Or I already ate dinner, I just wanna have a little snack, or whatever the story is, right? And then once you start going and there's like something else takes over, and we can blame it on the food companies, right? You know, the food industry, and you know, there's gajillions of websites out there and books out there that will, you know, talk all about how the problem's out there. But here's the thing, is that if you're doing that with the chips, and you're doing that with the Netflix, and you're doing that with the binging on social media, and you're doing that with incessantly checking your phone, and you're doing that with obsessing about your partner, and you're doing that about trying to fix your life and fix yourself, then we have to ask ourselves a deeper question. Is this just about the level of sugar and chemicals that they're putting in these chips? Or is there something deeper that is going on here? And that's what we're really talking about. So this first hallmark of having an addiction is, once I start, do I not want to stop? Does something else take over? And I have more than what I was intending. And it might not always happen, but if it ever happens, that's a sign that it's an addiction, not a bad habit, okay? Another sign that's an addiction and not a bad habit is that you can swear off a certain thing, right? I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm not gonna check my phone while I'm driving. I'm not going to late night binge. You get what I'm saying. I'm not gonna work past 6 o'clock, you know? And then somehow you find yourself back in the pattern. It's like, and sometimes even the same day. How did that happen? So that's another hallmark of having an addiction, is that you can You can know better, you can swear it off, you can make a firm commitment, you can make a promise to yourself, and somehow you fall back in it anyway. Okay, another hallmark of addiction is that your mind, listen up, your mind will create some kind of justification or rationalization why it's okay this time. Why it's okay this time. So it's like, oh, I've had a rough day. Oh, I gave everything to everyone else. Oh, I've been so good. Oh, I worked out. Oh, you know, it's like I gave up the sugar and now I'm just doing this. It's like we have stories and justifications for everything. For everything. It's just this one little project, right? For you workaholics listening up right now. It's just that one work project. I'm just gonna finish this one thing, just this one little task, and then I'll be done. Just this one little thing over here, right? Or no, I just need to really respond to this. This person's gonna think that I'm rude if I don't respond on social media to them because they respond to me, and this is what we do. This is what we do. So we have this justification or rationalization. So again, if you relate to that, then just know that that is a sign that this is not a bad habit. This is actually an addiction. Okay, so the next one here is that sometimes your mind comes up with this rationalization or justification, which PS, by the way, is the very reason why we can't rely on our mind to fix our mind, because our mind is the one that's coming up with the rationalization or the justification. Make sense? And sometimes the mind just like, we don't even think at all. Have you ever been in a situation where you just find yourself in the pattern? You just find yourself like incessantly checking your phone again. You just find yourself, you know, reaching for the phone when you're driving. You just find yourself working late. You find yourself in the kitchen, like with the fridge open, already pulling the food out, like maybe already eating it, on the couch eating. You come to and you're like, how did I just finish this whole bag? How did I finish this whole pint of ice cream? How did I do this? Like, you didn't even think at all. And so that's another hallmark of having addiction, where it's like you weren't even consciously thinking. And so again, this idea that we're supposed to analyze, that we're supposed to, what's my list here? Coach yourself, spend a month thinking about your habit, understand your triggers, right? Remind your future self about avoiding your bad habit, you know, train yourself to think differently. You can see why these types of things don't touch sides when you're talking about an addiction, because the very nature of addiction is that part of the problem resides in your mind, and your mind will play a trick on you, and you won't be able to rely on your mind in order to have the freedom. And then another hallmark of addiction, this is so important, and it ties back to the definition of addiction, but another hallmark of addiction is that it's being driven by something deeper. There is an underlying discomfort or dis-ease, or sometimes if you notice like a tension or an angst or an irritability or a restlessness, there's like something that's going on that drives us to reach for a sense of ease and comfort. And it can happen so quickly that we don't even notice it, right? But then we find ourselves reaching for something. But what happened? Was there just this underlying discomfort and dis-ease? This is what's so important to get. When I'm working with women in the Freedom Embodied Academy, we're going deeper into these things where women can really see at a body, mind, spirit level, what is actually driving me to this in the first place? What is actually going on? And what do I need to do at a body, mind, spirit level in order to get free from this? So this is really important. So again, as you are listening to this stuff, if you sense that what you've got going on is more of a bad habit that can be fixed by one of the things we talked about, or what you are, you know, what you've got going on, or the thing that you're kind of thinking about right now, it's a little bit more on the addiction side. Feel free to just post that in the comments, a bad habit or addiction. And then I really want to get into with you, what you need to do if you do recognize that you have an addiction, what to actually do. So here we go. And I'm just going to go over a few of the keys here. I don't want to like blow your mind here, but I do want to share with you some of those key things that are going to be really important for you to really get on your path of freedom from addiction. So the first part, and if you're listening to today's video, then you're already doing part of this, and so I really, really acknowledge you. But the first part is to get honest, that the way that you're doing things is not working. This was really, really important for me. As many of you know, as a health and fitness expert, and thought that my way was, I thought that I was doing it right. I thought I knew what to do when it came to my addiction with food. And I wasn't even aware when I first got into my path of freedom from food addiction that I was a total workaholic. Like, I wasn't even, that for me was like, I was not even willing to go there for a long time. But then I had to get honest about that too. That the way that I was, you know, burning the candle at both ends, living and dying and breathing for my work, more obsessed and concerned with what my boss thought about me and impressing him than I was about cultivating intimacy in my relationship. Everything was, my whole sense of self was caught up with my how I was perceived in my work environment. And so it's not easy sometimes really getting honest with yourself. Like, hey, the way that I'm doing things is not working right now. And maybe that has to do with the way I'm doing things, the way I'm trying to solve this problem, using bad habit solutions instead of finding out what it really takes. Like, that's not working anymore. You know, trying to fix my problem with an incomplete solution is not working anymore. And so that can be a really, really big place to be. And, you know, if you're listening to this right now, this conversation is kind of new for you, then you might need to just sit there for a little bit and really, really get, you know, get to that place of realization within inside of yourself. Then the next thing to do, and this is perhaps one of the most, I'm not going to say challenging, I'm going to say this holds the most opportunity. It holds the most opportunity for you. And this is to set aside your thinking and your ideas, all the solutions that you think that you're supposed to be doing, all the things, you know, all these strategies that you might have tried in the past, you know, where you've been trying to solve addictive patterns with bad habit solutions. Just setting aside all this stuff of everything that you think. Every time I speak with someone and they're like, I know what to do, I'm just not doing it. I say, well, what do you think you're supposed to do? Like, I know I'm supposed to eat right, and I know I'm supposed to, you know, drink water, and I know I'm supposed to, you know, and they'll tell me like these things, and I'm like, but that's not actually what's going to get you free from the addiction. Those are just lifestyle changes, which are good. They're replacing bad habits with good habits, but they are not addressing the underlying issue. So number 2 here is to set aside your ideas, set aside your thinking, and write this down in big bold letters, ask for help. Ask for help. It's one of the most humbling, powerful, courageous things that you can do. This is what catapults us out of that self-destructive pattern of trying to be our own coach, trying to figure it out on our own, trying to rely on a mindset that's actually deluding us at the same time, where we stay stuck and frustrated and embarrassed and ashamed. And when we're willing to have the courage to actually ask for help, it's like we were able to just cut through all of that. And we're able to launch into a whole new level of freedom and of access and of possibility. Because if you're constantly trying to use the same things you know that got you to where you are in order to get you to the next place, you're going to stay stuck. We need a whole new set of tools, ways of being, support, intelligence. We need a whole nother level of all of that. When I say intelligence, I don't just mean mind intelligence. I mean like greater intelligence, right? Universal intelligence. We need something greater than ourselves to pull us out of where we are. And that's all a part of setting aside what we think we know of how it is and asking for some help. The third key that is vital for truly getting free from any addiction is to embody the path of cultivating an internal sense of ease and comfort. Embodying the path of cultivating an internal sense of ease and comfort. So if it's that internal sense of dis-ease and discomfort that has us driving for an external source of ease and comfort, then what we need to do is we need to learn how to cultivate an authentic sense of ease and comfort inside of ourselves and embody that experience, because when we do, it will eliminate the need to reach for any addictive pattern. That is the true solution of how to get free from your addictions. I have done it with many, many addictions. I have seen it happen right in front of my eyes with other people. This is what works. So this is super, super important. Again, if you want to know more about what that is, if you and I haven't had a conversation before and you want more clarity about how to specifically get on your path of freedom from addiction and how to embody this path of cultivating an internal sense of ease and comfort as it relates specifically to you, if you haven't already, just grab some time on my calendar, getsupport.today. I would be so honored to share with you, because this is the stuff that I feel like every single person needs in the world. Okay, and then the last one is to surround yourself by others who get you and who you can be real with. There's nothing more frustrating and shaming than being around people who don't have what you have and who don't get it. And so they're constantly trying. When I speak with my clients who are food addicts, and when they're around family members who don't really understand what they have, and the family members trying not to make them feel ashamed for their addiction or whatever, and so the family member's like, oh, you can have that dessert, just cheat a little bit, you're fine. It's not a big deal, like they're somehow trying to like make it okay, but they make it worse. If you've ever been around people who you feel like don't get you at all when it comes to what you're struggling with, and in not getting you, they actually make you feel worse about yourself and almost invalidated for having the challenge that you have, then you need to seek out and find and surround yourself with a like-minded community of people who get you, who you can be real with, who are on the same path with you, who you can share with, and who aren't going to try to fix and change you, but who are just alongside you on the journey. I mean, this is, I think, one of the most powerful things about the Freedom Embodied Academy, because we have all the women are in it together and so supportive. It's such an incredibly supportive environment. And I want everybody to have that. So if you are not a part of the Academy, and that's not a fit for you, but you do want to be in a supportive environment, please, please, please come over and spend some time with us over in the Congruence Collective Facebook group. It'd be so, so wonderful to see you over there. You can just go to liveyourlight.today and go ahead and request to join. It's a closed group, and it's, everybody in there is committed to living free from whatever's holding them back, to authentically shining the light, and to feeling comfortable in their own skin. And if you are on a path wanting to shine your light in the world and just be authentically you, then that is the place for you. So definitely come over and join us over there. Okay, goodness, we have spoken about a lot here today. I hope you are more clear on what it means to have a bad habit and what it means to have an addiction, and that you are clear on exactly what to do to get free from both. So again, it's such an honor to be here with you, and I would love if this topic really, really resonates for you, and you feel like other people can be served by this. Please, please go ahead and share it. Let's spread the love, and I'll connect more with you very soon. Bye for now. Mwah.